to get into. But the first order of business is to get started with the WNBA, where the league is making headlines like never before in its 27-year history. It's 8,490. So games that Caitlyn Clark plays are averaging 85% more than non-Caitlyn Clark games.
Ever felt like your hard work went unnoticed? That's exactly what Stephen A. Smith thinks happened to Caitlyn Clark. Here's how he's standing up for the rookie and why it's causing waves. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. The WNBA scene is changing more quickly than ever. Records set by the greatest players in history are being broken by rising talents. However, it goes beyond the figures. A newcomer is drawing more audiences than ever before. Why are some well-known people so anxious about her success? Let's discuss the WNBA's heyday. The league is now seeing unprecedented growth in popularity. Viewership is through the roof, attendance is up, and records are being broken left and right. However, why is this expansion so rapid? First of all, there is the amazing talent on exhibit. Consider A'ja Wilson, who leads the court in scoring with 27.5 points per contest on average.
Set a single season points per game scoring record, averaging 27.5 points, y'all. We know about A'ja Wilson, okay? Let's get that out the way. Two-time MVP of the Las Vegas Aces, the best player in the world right now.
Not only is she talented, but she's on pace to break Diana Taurasi's record for most points scored in a season.
Surpassing Diana Taurasi's 25.3 points per game, set back in 2006. That's one person. The others...
It's the kind of show that makes people talk. Wilson is not the only one, though, creating waves. In just 32 games, Angel Reese broke the previous league record for the most rebounds in a single season. Yes, she beat the record held by Sylvia Fowles with plenty of time left. The WNBA's current standard of play, it's extraordinary.
Angel Reese, the Chicago Sky forward, just set the league record for the most rebounds in a season, surpassing a mark set by Sylvia Fowles in 2018.
Okay, great players, but how does that translate to more fans? Is probably what's on your mind right now. That's where the intriguing part starts. Let me introduce you to Caitlyn Clark, the rookie who is completely upending the league. Clark is not only excellent, but truly revolutionary. The Indiana Fever have improved from being bottom dwellers to contenders since she joined them, recording their first record above 100 in 5 years. Clark, too, over the past 12 games, she has averaged 23.4 points per game. Those are rookie stats that give veterans cold sweats. The shocking thing is that Clark isn't only altering the game on the court, she's also altering it in the stands. Attendance at Clark's games averages 15,140 each game. Compared to games without her, it is 85% higher. Give that a moment to settle in.
Is of course Caitlyn Clark, who just led the Indiana Fever to an above 500 record for the first time in 5 years to get into. But the first order of business is to get started with the WNBA, where the league is making headlines like never before in its 27-year history.
Attendance is almost doubled by one player. With Clark at the helm, the Indiana Fever has emerged as the WNBA's best team in terms of both home and away attendance. They're beating rival teams by 36% on the road and 35% at home. Not only are those impressive figures, they're revolutionary. Attendance at WNBA games is up 20% overall. Ratings for TV shattered. Sales of merchandise via the roof. Clark is the focal point of this league-wide rebirth that we are discussing. Clark is being compared to Tiger Woods by some, who claim that she is transforming women's basketball fan involvement in the same way that he revolutionized golf. That represents a fundamental change in the way people think about the sport, not just hype.
With over 500,000 fans over their first 33 games this season. Some have compared Caitlyn Clark to Tiger Woods. Either way you slice it, it's clear that we're witnessing a golden era in the sport. Caitlyn Clark, what'd I tell y'all?
This is where things become tricky though. Not everyone is pleased with Clark's quick ascent to prominence. A few well-known names in women's basketball appear uncomfortable. Beneath the surface, there's a sense of tension and possible biases in recognition. It appears that there are individuals who find fault with the league's recent course. A WNBA legend just made a provocative statement that has everyone buzzing. What is it that she said, or rather who she did not say, that has enraged Stephen A. Smith? Basketball icon and Hall of Famer Sheryl Swoopes recently discussed her opinion on the Indiana Fever's outstanding season. However, one notable absence from her laudatory remarks was Caitlyn Clark, the rookie phenom who has been illuminating the league. Why would a reputable person like Swoopes ignore the athlete who's been bringing in unprecedented numbers of viewers and attendees? Let's dissect it. Regarding the Fever's overall performance, Swoopes was all praise. She complimented their approach, their teamwork, and even singled out a few important individuals. But Clark, not a single reference. It would be like discussing the Bulls' heyday without bringing up Michael Jordan. Nothing seems to add up. You may be asking yourself, maybe it was just an honest mistake? At this point, the fact is, nevertheless, that in the realm of professional sports, language counts, particularly from someone with Swoopes' standing. This was not an inadvertent omission, it was a decision that caused a stir in the basketball community. Why then did Swoopes exclude Clark? Some others think it might have to do with leaving a legacy. After all, Clark's meteoric ascent is shattering records and altering public perceptions of women's basketball. Is there even a tinge of bitterness there? Or is there a deeper reason? Some speculate that it might have to do with the WNBA's evolving image. Clark is a symbol of a new age that is attracting more attention and admirers than ever before. Veterans who struggle to gain recognition in a less well-liked league may find this unexpected increase to be confusing.
Average attendance in the 33 games Caitlyn Clark and the Indiana Fever have played this season is at 15,746. That leads the WNBA, okay? By the way, she's the second leading scorer at 23.4 points per game over the last 12 games.
For whatever reason, Swoopes' remarks were taken seriously. Stephen A. Smith enters the picture at this point. Smith, who was well known for his candid style, wasn't going to overlook this. To him, Swoopes' exclusion was more than coincidental. He saw it as an egregious example of unprofessional bias. Smith was blunt in his remarks. He criticized Swoopes for what he perceived to be his lack of neutrality. In his signature manner, he clarified that his decision to omit Clark's name from the discussion was not accidental, but rather a conscious decision that contributes to a greater story. Which story? The theory that Clark's success may be posing a threat to some well-known figures in women's basketball.
And how she's revolutionized fan engagement in women's basketball. Overall attendance, in case you missed it, is up by 20%. Breaking TV viewership ratings is 8,490. So games that Caitlyn Clark plays are averaging 85% more than non-Caitlyn Clark games.
Smith proposed that Swoopes' remarks give credence to those who feel she's being marginalized and hated to some extent. Smith, though, wasn't done. He went one beyond and openly questioned Swoopes' level of professionalism. According to him, you're literally putting the lack of professional objectivity on display for audiences to see. Hurt. That is a clear criticism of Swoopes' objectivity as a commentator, not just criticism. The world of basketball noticed. Analysts, athletes, and fans all had something to say. Some came to Swoopes' defense, saying she was entitled to her own views. Some agreed with Smith, interpreting Swoopes' exclusion as an obvious blow against a player who is changing the game. It became evident throughout the heated discussion that this wasn't just about one player or one phrase. It dealt with how women's basketball is evolving. Growing pains are a part of the WNBA's developing nature. Tensions between tradition and innovation, established players and rising stars are evident in real time. The WNBA is reeling from a bombshell that Stephen A. Smith just dropped. It's no longer simply about Swoopes. It has to do with women's basketball's future, and Smith may have completely changed the rules with her word choice. However, how could a single word possibly create such a stir? The term that sparked everything? Coward. Yes, Stephen A. Smith referred to Sheryl Swoopes as a coward for her remarks regarding the success of the Indiana Fever, or rather, for what she omitted to say. Smith didn't mince words when he charged that Swoopes was purposefully ignoring Caitlyn Clark's contribution to the club and the league. Why does this matter so much? For Smith is criticizing Swoopes for more than just a careless mistake. He is questioning her ability to maintain her credibility as a sports pundit. Smith believed that Swoopes' decision to omit Clark's name was not accidental, but rather a conscious decision that betrayed a lack of neutrality. Smith continued after that. You got to pause and then isolate and compartmentalize and give them the love that they're due, he said, emphasizing the significance of identifying transformational players like Clark. Recognizing the players who are altering the game is just as important as giving credit when credit is due. But this is when the intriguing part starts. In addition to causing Swoopes to become agitated, Smith's remarks ignited a controversy within the sports community. Retaliating, Swoopes referred to Smith as a effing coward for confronting her. How about reversing the roles? The ramifications of this conversation have been enormous. It's more than just two well-known athletes teasing one another. It's spurred a wider discussion about how sports pundits influence how people perceive players. Should pundits identify up-and-coming talent even if it means admitting that the rules are shifting? Smith is certain of it. He contended that Swoopes' actions cast doubt on her ability to be a professional objector, saying, "You're literally putting the lack of professional objectivity on display for audiences to see." Hurt. That directly challenges Swoopes' credibility as a commentator and goes beyond simple criticism. Smith and Swoopes' disagreement is not occurring in a vacuum. It's happening in the context of a WNBA that is changing quickly. The league is experiencing unheard of growth, with players like Clark drawing record attendance and attention. However, growth is accompanied by growing pains, which are being highlighted by this issue. On the one hand, there are well-known individuals like Swoopes who battled valiantly for acknowledgement in a league that frequently faced attention issues. Conversely, rising talents such as Clark are drawing greater attention and admirers than they have in the past. In reality, the conflict between Smith and Swoopes is a conflict between these two realms. Smith's epithet coward goes beyond merely criticizing Swoopes. It's about pushing the establishment to accept the changes occurring in women's basketball. It's an appeal for impartiality and equity in the identification and celebration of up-and-coming talent. However, it's also posing some awkward queries. Is there a generational gap in the perspectives and discussions around women's basketball? Do some prominent personalities perceive the success of recent arrivals like Clark as a threat? How can we strike a balance between our enthusiasm for the game's future and our reverence for its past? Smith's remarks have raised these and other related questions. One player or one term is no longer the only consideration. It concerns the overall trajectory of women's basketball. Talks concerning objectivity, prejudice, and the responsibility of having a voice in sports media have been spurred by the incident. There is more at stake in Stephen A. Smith and Sheryl Swoopes' argument than simply one player or one remark. The whole WNBA is being rattled by it. Smith's coward bomb may have permanently altered the course of events. Consider it, more people are becoming aware of Caitlyn Clark than ever before. She's increasing participation by 85%. That is very significant. However, a few people appear worried about all of this upheaval. Why? The real query is this: what are sports pundits supposed to do? Do they influence our perceptions of athletes and leagues, or should they just call the game? According to Smith, it's important to be just and acknowledge innovators. Swoopers? Well, she has an opinion of her own, huh? So what are your thoughts? Is Smith correct in criticizing Swoopes, or is she just being steadfast? How we respond to these inquiries may determine the direction of women's basketball in the future.